Hi guys, this is Nitin and I welcome you to my startup podcast channel Audio, where we share real stories with real learning. Today my guest speaker is Meheryar Tata. Meheryar is the co-founder of EazyLeazy, an online rental startup. In a span of over 2 years, EazyLeazy garnered $100,000 in a particular year, and it also had a highly satisfied customer base. Unfortunately, EazyLeazy had to be closed due to limited scalability and also due to low demand. So in this podcast, Meheryar would be talking to us to share his key learnings and also an advice to the budding entrepreneurs to take corrective action before they are forced to close down their ventures. Meheryar, welcome to Audio and thank you for talking to us.
Hey Nitin, thanks for having me here. Looking forward to sharing my thoughts with you today.
So my first question is, what motivated you to start EazyLeazy?
So EazyLeazy was an online assets rental business. Our aim was to give you easy access to high quality products that you once in a while to or something that you want to try before committing. So the thinking behind why we felt Easy was a good idea, now going back to 2015 and noticed from 2007 onwards, essentially India had moved from a completely offline model to an online model. And if you wanted to buy something new, you could go to Flipkart or Amazon. Wanted to buy something second hand, go to OLX or quicker. But there was no real way to get access to products if you just want to use it for a short period of time, talking about renting, right? And there are a number of asset classes rather where this kind of makes sense. For example, a great instance that we always give people is take a DSLR camera. Unless you're really passionate about photography, it's not something that makes sense to own. But once in a while when you go on holiday or go on safari, it's a really great thing to have. Same way if you take a karaoke machine, it's not really something you're going to use every day, but once in a while when you have a party, it's a great addition and everyone can have a lot of fun and stuff. So we felt that there was a class of assets where either because they were too expensive or not used frequently enough, it didn't make sense to own. And we felt if we provided the rental access, there could be a market for it. So basically that was the thinking behind. And the kinds of categories that we were in, two of them I mentioned was DSLR cameras, karaoke machines, but we also had things like advanced technology or other upcoming technology at that time. Think of smartwatches, fitness bands. We had games for parties apart from karaoke machines, and we also had things like projectors and speakers.
So Meheryar, you mentioned about bootstrapping EazyLeazy for 2 long years and even achieving $100,000 as revenue in a particular year. How did you achieve this feat?
So as for how we reached our peak run rate, I think that is impacted both by our decision on the product side as well as on the discount. So on the product side, one key innovation or differentiator that we had was compared to the competition, which was all into peer-to-peer rental, where they would essentially take from customer A and give to customer B. We decided to be the owner of all our assets. So we were a full stack, and that definitely gave us advantages in terms of the quality of assets, the amount of time in which you could confirm an order, the pricing, because we would price it as a business and not have a double logistics cost to handle, and we could also provide a complete experience in terms of all the accessories and any additional things that you need. So a good example for this is take a GoPro camera, which is typically used for scuba diving, but the camera itself is not so useful without the accessories called mount. Now if you took a GoPro on one of these peer-to-peer platforms, you had no idea on the other side whether he only had the camera, he only had one mount or whatever. But when we'd provide a complete pack, right? So we'd provide the GoPro camera, we'd provide a housing case to protect the camera, we'd provide 8 different types of mounts. So because we were providing a complete experience, it was cheaper, we could confirm faster. We thought, definitely on the product side, we were far ahead of the competition. Now on the distribution side, we had the most amount of success with Google AdWords. Basically, when people were searching for rent GoPro, rent DSLR, rent karaoke machine. So, and we also worked on search engine optimization to make sure we were the highest ranked item over there. And we, had a lot of success through that route. We also tried out Facebook marketing referral program, but we didn't have as much success over there. But basically Google AdWords, I would say, was best. And then I think the month in which we hit a peak revenue rate, there's also an aspect of seasonality. I think it was December, so obviously more people do throw party, go out of town and say that. And we also had our existing base of customers at that time, which was repeating at pretty decent rate.
Oh, great. So can you share with us some key gaps which resulted in the closure of EazyLeazy back in December 2017?
So I think the number one reason why we shut down, I think this will apply to most startups, were not enough needed what we had. What that means is we had kind of quickly reached the limit of the market who was aware of renting as a solution to some of their needs and already actively for us. And good example is, again, I'll come back to AdWords, our most successful marketing channel. There were maybe 100 people daily who were rent GoPro, rent car. And so these are the people who are A, aware that a rental solution exists, and B, have enough pain that they want to go out and find it, right? We hit this market and that was great. It was working very successfully. The problem problem is what after that? Unless 100 people a day becomes 1,000 people a day and 10,000 a day, this business was not going to scale. And unfortunately, the only way for that to happen is to kind of spend money on marketing to create that awareness so people then remember you when they have a need and come. Obviously, we were not able to raise outside capital because our growth rate had also kind of plateaued by that time, because again, we had hit the mark. So it was kind of a chicken and egg where you needed capital to create the awareness, but no one was going to give you the capital unless you were able to prove that there was growth, and we kind of hit the limits over that. We were in that sticky sort of situation. We concluded that, look, if you're not able to raise the capital, we might as well take our lesson. I think a good example of what I mean when I say there was lack of awareness is I play guitar, right? Like one time my guitar was being repaired or something and I needed a spare. And even me, the owner of an online asset rental business, my first reaction was not, oh, let me see if this is available for rent. My reaction was, oh shit, I have to buy a second-hand one, or I'll call some friends and try and borrow it from someone temporary. And that's when I kind of realized that it's so unnatural right now to think of rental as a viable option that, it just makes no sense. And it kind of explains why there was no natural growth in that market, right? So, it would grow, but it would grow very slowly because it needs some sort of time and capital to convince people that yes, rental is an option, it's a viable option, now there's a good solution for it.
And with all the key lessons learned from EazyLeazy, what advice would you give to the budding entrepreneurs?
So the number one lesson was that apart from having a great product, it is equally important, if not more important, to also have an idea of what. When I say distribution, what I mean is how are you going to make the market aware of what you have built? How are you going to? I think this is something to think about along with building or even before you build your product and not after. I think that's one of the mistakes that we made, and probably if we had gone the other way and tried to think about it that way, we would have maybe made change. The media focused too much on the success stories where, an entrepreneur built something and got a lot of traction from day zero and then you just became super big world. But the fact is those are the exceptions and they are not the rule, right? And for most, I would say 99% also of successful startups, they had to have a very sensible strategy. Said, okay, we've got this product, now how are we going to sell it? A lot of time figuring out what channels work, what channels don't work, how they want to incentivize the sales stuff. And really, if you think what you build is going to become the next Facebook, that's literally a once in a generation or once in 10 years deal. So don't rely on trying to do something like that. There's a very nice phrase that I read on Twitter a couple of months back, really resonated with me. I think it applies very well to the point. First time founders focus on product, second time founders focus on things. It's really the kind of lesson that you only learn once you've gone through it once, and maybe the first time it's a little difficult or not the most obvious lesson to learn. At least for me, that's what it is.
And finally, how did you incorporate those key lessons learned from EazyLeazy into your new venture?
So currently one of the products that I'm working on is a ERP system for Indian. And now in isolation, even if I had the technical ability to build this, it would make no sense for me alone to build this because I have no idea what that market is like or even how to sell in that. So I think here now the key differentiator is that I'm working with a friend of mine, actually been involved in the space for consulting services, and he's been in that space for 9 years, right? So he understands deeply, intimately what are the problems of those sectors. He has a network through which we can get product feedback and get the product out into the market, i.e. a decision. And these give huge advantages that a third party can just get up and try and duplicate, right? So I'm very hopeful that this will go well, and definitely I've tried to keep in mind the learnings over here. The other bit of advice is more generic, but there's a framework with which you can think about building product. Your product a vitamin or is it a pain? A vitamin is something that is good to have, nice to have, but you can live without. It's not going to really affect you as a life. But a painkiller is something that you need to have right now, and you'll pay any amount of money to kind of solve that. If you have a choice, and not all of us do, but if you have a choice, it's far better to work on a painkiller type of product rather than a vitamin type. EazyLeazy was definitely a vitamin type of product. It made your life better, it made your life easier, it made your life happier, but it wasn't really solving a huge pain. And definitely with other products that I'm building, ERP for Impact, we are solving a huge pain point for NGOs where today their account listing are all completely haphazard, done in Excel part. And we really feel by systematizing that, we'll be giving them a much. So far, the feedback's been really good. We have about 8-10 customers now. Hopefully it goes well.
Awesome. So with this, we have reached at the end of this podcast. Meheryar, thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights for all the entrepreneurs and the founders. I'm sure they would have learned a lot from this particular session. Thank you for taking your time and sharing with us all these insights.
Thanks, Nitin. I hope this was useful to your listeners. If there's anyone who want to have a deeper conversation about these topics, happy to do that. You can find me on LinkedIn. Again, reach out over there. Thanks so much again.
Are you a founder of an early stage startup and looking to raise funding? Get your startup investor ready before even you start pitching to your prospective investors. For know-how, please visit www.jazzero.in. That is www.jasaro.in.
Lastly, I want to thank all the listeners who took their valuable time to listen to this podcast. Keep rocking, be safe, and don't forget to share.